welcome into another episode of Perseverance Live. I'm your host, Vera Jones. If you're watching us from Facebook or from YouTube Live, thank you, or from wherever else our viewership is extended. Really appreciate you joining in for another episode, and we will not disappoint. Excitement always comes whenever you tune into Perseverance Live. Make sure you tell some friends and their friends and cousins and all of that as well, okay? This is a space and place I hope you will come to trust. By watching, you will be inspired to live a life of significance and purpose as we interview people who are doing exactly the same thing. Perseverance speakers are ordinary people who have found their purpose in sharing their extraordinary stories so that they can educate and inspire the world. Today, I would like to introduce you to a personal friend. We have a story, a little history that goes back. Of course, we're going to have to tell you what that's all about. But please put your hands together out there in cyber world for Kurt Pangborn. This always drives me nuts. I have this thing, Kurt, where I like to be right. I like to be right, so I'm going to be on the right. All right. But welcome into the studios just the same.
Thank you so much, Vera. I don't mind if you're right tonight because you're the one running the show. But I've had this marked on my calendar for a few weeks now, and it's a joy that the day's finally here.
I am so excited, but you took it up a notch. Like I'm kind of coming in from this living room that's not necessarily my own. But you are coming to us from Bloomington, Indiana University at you're actually in the arena, are you not? Where are you?
Yeah, I'm in Simon Scott Assembly Hall, home of the Indiana Hoosiers, both men's and women's basketball. So a little bit different setup tonight. So love the backdrop.
Yeah, I mean, I'm really, really happy that you joined us, and I'm definitely happy that you went out of your way to get Assembly Hall. That's huge. We're big time now. Just if I wasn't big time before, we are definitely big time now. So thank you so much for that. Kurt, tell them I already teased that we have known each other. So I'll give you all that are watching out there. And again, thanks for watching. We met when I was the assistant coach at Indiana University. What on earth were you doing at that time?
I was a women's basketball manager, so I was the one that would do all the odd and end jobs and do whatever I could. And you were a great mentor, and you weren't too difficult on me.
No, I didn't yell at you too much. Not too much. I was one of the nicer ones. So the fun one.
Absolutely.
So it was crazy to me because out of the blue, you called one day and, you had an interest in speaking. And what was the impetus behind that?
Absolutely. Well, I gave you a phone call because I was writing a book called Through Blurred Vision. It started as a conviction, just as a way to share my testimony, my story in writing. And I saw that you were starting a new Perseverance Speakers Academy. And I thought that would be tremendous if I could pair the book with speaking. So I've got to get Vera on the phone. And
you did. And I was shocked. I was like, Kurt, it had been, this was 2000. I left in 2007. So this was, had been years since I'd seen you or talked to you or known anything of your whereabouts. So it was really, really awesome that you called. And right then and there, I was like, we got to make this happen. So I'm really, really happy to be your coach, so to speak, once again. But this time, totally different. This time, really, really making an impact and changing the world. I want to introduce you all to Kurt by the professional way. Just by reading a short bio, but then I want to show you a little something about how he performs as a speaker. Kurt Pangborn is a collegiate athletics professional at Indiana University, located in Bloomington, Indiana, serving as an assistant director for athletic tours and ticket operations. Kurt specializes in customer care, promotion, and revenue generation. A combined 14 years of experience in collegiate athletics has built a foundation for achievement inside the industry, success within the boundaries of competition, sales, and advancement have been direct contributions from Indiana University. Yet claiming victory in all aspects of life originated from a limitation. Let me take you in and talk about just a little bit about that limitation.
Talk about no limitations, right? How about this mohawk? Maybe I should go for that look sometime. So no limitations when it comes to that whatsoever. We think about here, my mom early on was told due to a tubal pregnancy that she would not be able to bear children. Well, I want to keep you on track tonight. So make sure you grab a writing utensil and you write down August the 3rd. August the 3rd. Why do I say that? Well, that's my birthday. And I'm certainly not opposed to gifts or to cards or maybe even a little bit of ice cream cake. So August the 3rd, write that down. So my mom faced a situation where it's highly unlikely that she's going to be able to bear children. But August the 3rd, here I am. She had her first baby boy. She's super excited about that. And the next morning, she met the doctor for an overview. And the doctor says, you have a very, very healthy baby boy. But there's that key word, but.
But. The key word is but. But what, Kurt?
But they wanted to send me to Indianapolis to visit a doctor that worked with the Riley Children's Hospital. Several of you that are watching may be familiar with that name. The diagnosis was quickly given on that Monday morning, August the 8th, that I had congenital glaucoma. That takes place with every 0.001% of births. And so it's very, very unique to have that. With that diagnosis, it opened up a bevy of questions. We didn't know what the future was going to look like. We didn't know if we'd be able to salvage any of my vision whatsoever. And in fact, as time went on, they thought the prognosis was fairly positive, maybe 4 to 5 operations. Well, as I sit here today, it's been 40 eye operations. I was also the first one to have Multino tubes installed in both eyes. At the time, the procedure was done throughout adult cases, but never before in infants and youth. So it was definitely a big step of faith to do that, because you think about the developmental process and trying to install those tubes. What's going to happen down the line when you grow? Are they going to need to replace those? Is it going to damage the eye? Is it going to press into the cornea? So it went from 4 to 5 surgeries to 40 surgeries, and literally feeling like I was an island by myself, which set myself up for a rather difficult childhood, to say the least.
You talk a lot about in your motivational speaking. And for those of you that don't know, every speaker that comes through the Perseverance Speakers Academy goes through a graduation. And so a lot of the times when we're sharing those videos, the clips are coming from those graduations. And so Kurt, at his presentation, his graduation presentation, which has to be done via Zoom, naturally, in the midst of COVID-19, but you talked a lot about difficulties, not just being born legally blind, technically, but also just that there's a lot of emotional strain that comes with it. What were some of your challenges coming up as a young child and dealing with 40 surgeries and all of the complications emotionally that are attached to having this disability?
Exactly. Well, from the beginning, with just the sheer amount of surgeries, my eyes are extremely, extremely sensitive. And my mom would have a hard time for me to open my eyes. And you can imagine, as a mother, there's nothing they want more to not only see their child's face, but see their eyes. And she actually got where she would take me out in the middle of the night. So I'd open my eyes and she would show me the moon. In fact, my second word was the word light. But as we move forward from that, not only the pain that was involved with just the surgeries and the different things I went through, but the pain of feeling, disconnected. I think about being on the playground at elementary school, and they'd have certain games that they'd want to play, and either I was the last one to be picked or wasn't picked at all. And I can think about sitting on a swing set and just literally kind of moving my feet through the gravel, making that S shape, and just kind of wasting away those 10, 15 minutes, just, not really feeling included, but knowing that I couldn't do anything about it. It wasn't like that I wasn't the popular kid, just physically, they weren't what they were looking for. So a lot of challenges in that regard, feeling I was disconnected.
I think your story resonates with so many people because in one way or another, we've all been in a place where we did not feel included, or many of us, I won't say all, there are some that are a bit more privileged, I guess, than others. But when you talk about the inclusiveness or lack thereof, when you think of a world of what we're going through today and all of the different challenges for persons of color, for women, for the elderly, for persons with disabilities, I think your story resonates so much because everyone can identify with that place of the pain of feeling ostracized, of feeling like they don't matter, or that, as you best said, that they have limitations. What are some of those limitations you've had to conquer?
Yeah, there's been a ton of limitations, right? Anything from in the school, I had to special order my textbooks. They had to be large print. And these textbooks were huge. I'd have a milk crate in every classroom because there was literally anywhere from 4 to 8 volumes. It was so big. They had to special order line paper for me as well. In my speech, I talk about where's the lines, because a lot of times not only font, but lines are even harder to see. You think of these fancy checks and those lines. So it's like, where's the lines in my life? And so not only from a classroom standpoint, but even from a family standpoint, and I think that's where my story even hits home more. Unfortunately, over half of marriages in America end in divorce. And that was the case for me twice. So not only I was being challenged in the classroom with just trying to visually see and adapt and keep up, but also from the relational side at home, very, very taxing.
Yeah, and it speaks volumes to, you know, you never know. You never know what people are going through at home. You never know what their personal trials and struggles are. And you never know just how dark someone else's world is. One of the things you also talked about in when you were speaking was about that darkness and about finding the light. Can you cue us into what that's all about?
Absolutely. Well, the light, obviously, I said was my second word. And that light was reflective light from the sun. But when I was in my teenage years, I felt the Lord knocking on the door of my heart, which was significant because a lot of what I do is going off of hearing. And I clearly remember the pastor preaching on the Lord knocking on the door of your heart. And I went kind of begrudgingly a little bit. It was on the third verse of the altar call, and went forward and asked the Lord to save me. And that's when I discovered, which one of my life verses is John 8:12, that it is the true light. And I realized through that I had a whole new hope. I had a new life in Christ, a whole new perspective, and realized, yes, there's a limitation, but he can use this limitation in a way that's far greater than I could even imagine. So it's unique thinking that the second word was light, but it wasn't until teenage years I really discovered what the true light was and is.
I want to hear a little bit more about that light. We're going to take a little sponsor break. And I also want you to tell us all about what we should be thinking about with your Wisdom Wednesday or Wednesday Wisdom. It's tough to say, I know that much, but we'll figure out how to say it on the way back.
In today's busy, fast-paced world, you need hydration that can go the distance with you. Face it, most sports drinks are more like soda. Many contain tons of sugar, artificial flavoring, artificial colors, and artificial ingredients, sometimes leaving you feeling sluggish, nauseous, and bloated. Well, there's a new sports drink in town, and she's got game. Introducing Electra, supernatural hydration for everyday doers, hustlers, and athletes.
Hi, it's Vera Jones. I am a motivational speaker, a communication coach, and founder of the Perseverance Speakers Academy. Let me ask you a quick question. What drives you? If it is not your purpose or your passion, you're probably going in the wrong direction. How do I know? Because every day I'm driven by my passion to help other people, ordinary people, become extraordinary speakers through the Perseverance Speakers Academy. What do you need to do if it's starting to buzz you right now and you're starting to go, gosh, I've been dreaming about this. I've been thinking about this. Well, reach out to me. Free consultation is available for you at ps-vera.com. Go there now. Get yourself out of park. It's time for your dreams to have a place to go. ps-vera.com. I look forward to getting you going in the right direction. And don't hate me because I'm witty and clever. Definitely don't hate me because I'm witty and clever. With us today is Kurt Pangborn. He is one of the most genuine, fun, down to earth speakers I have met, and certainly one that I have trained. And, Kurt, your story just resonates with so many people. I have a son, and a lot of people know my story. My son, of course, at the age of 12, had a brain tumor, a craniopharyngioma that left him legally blind. And he looks up to you. And I will never forget when he sat in on your graduation speech, and he was literally just moved to tears. Because again, your story resonated with him. It made him believe that he could. And I think that one of the biggest messages that any of us can share is, particularly to persons with living with disabilities, is that the limitations that that are placed on them are also sometimes the biggest struggle is that we place limitations on ourselves. What would you say to someone? Let's get to your Wednesday wisdom first of all, but secondly, what would you say to someone, particularly a person who is struggling with disabilities, to keep them encouraged that they can overcome? So hit me with your Wednesday wisdom.
You got it. Wednesday wisdom. I really like to wrinkle my nose. Kind of looks like a pug. No, for me, maybe a bulldog. I wrinkle my nose a statement at the end of the day because really I like to say at the beginning of the day. My wisdom would be at the beginning of the day, it's about other people. Now, I would say this year I've learned what busy really means. It's been extremely busy, but I don't want that to override my investment in other people. Whether I'm in the ticket office talking to somebody I've never talked to before, whether I'm reaching out to a former intern to go to dinner with them because they're graduating, putting in my phone, I want to pray for somebody because they have an upcoming board or they've got something going on. I want to make sure no matter how busy the schedule gets, I'm always investing in other people. It's about being selfless. And that just comes from Christ's love that I want to make sure no matter what I'm doing, I'm investing in other people's lives. And that's where the speaking comes from. That's where the book comes from. I simply want to do it out of love. And the second part of your question about disabilities, what would I encourage them to do? The exact same thing. Look beyond yourself, because a lot of times you can wallow in self-pity. And what that does is it creates a vicious cycle around and around and around. But the more you develop relationships, the better off you're going to be. I think about this whole thing being a gift. If I hadn't had a visual impairment, I would have met 3/4 of the people that I have now. But it took me being active and step forward to other people and just show that love and get to know them. And there's so many opportunities. And what's wonderful, people with disabilities are actually going to be more loyal. They're going to work harder, and they're going to bring a unique set of capabilities to the table. And so when I talk to different employers, I encourage them to hire people with disabilities because you're getting a very special individual, and they're going to be more dedicated than a lot of people or counterparts in any office setting.
So naturally, that was the case with you. You've been at Indiana University for quite some time. Like I said, I left there in 2007, and you were a manager. Now have worked your way up to assistant athletic director with ticketing and sales and all of that. And and tours. And I think that's just awesome. I think that you speak volumes for that loyalty. I want to take you back real quick, though, because in life, when we talk about perseverance, Vera, I always have to explain this to anybody who cares. They always go, "Oh, you put your name in the middle of the logo." I'm like, well, I didn't put it there. It actually was spelt that way already. It's just that I happened to notice that it was in there. But Vera means faith. And in the middle of adversity, there's always faith that will get you through it. You talk about in your story a major awakening. That moment where you saw the light. What had happened in your life that made you finally wake up and not just see the light, but really, really begin to see the true light in your faith and in your relationship with Jesus Christ? Can you talk about what that moment was?
Absolutely. Like you said, it does go back to when I accepted Christ as my personal savior, but there were still struggles, right? There was tests that were just right and left and everywhere you go. But I realized that I need a game plan. We're in assembly hall. We think about prepping and game plans. I need a game plan for life. I think about when I was at Vincennes University, I walked into a classroom completely caught off guard. There was an exam, had no idea. And I thought about life and how I need to have my dependence upon Christ. And so what I did is I literally developed a game plan, and it was links to my name, real creative here. My last name's Pangborn, starts with a P. So I created the 3 Ps as my game plan, and that is praise, prayer, and perseverance. And I've made sure to keep those in the forefront of my mind every day. Enter in praise, be grateful, be thankful for everything. Also prayer, spend time asking God for help, pray on the behalf of others, and then persevere. As long as I have breath and I have life, that means there's a purpose. And I don't waver in that whatsoever. Every single day I have a gift, but it's a day that I can persevere and I can invest in other people and know that my life matters and your life matters. And so when we have that time to persevere, as long as we keep that mindset, I can promise you that you're going to have a fulfilling life when you do those things.
Kurt, what is it now that you've gone through the academy, you felt this conviction for a while, that you wanted to speak, that you wanted to impact others, you've written a book, and about to be published, want to hear more about that as well. But what is it now that you want to do? Who are you speaking to? What is the message that you want to get across?
Absolutely. Well, I've already started speaking. I've actually got one on the books coming up June the 6th. It's at a local ministry, so I definitely see myself involved in ministry, whether that's youth rallies, whether that's actually preaching a sermon. Also, I'd love to venture out into like National Federation of the Blind, American Council of the Blind, maybe hop on, 69 out here and go up to Indianapolis, speak to the Indiana School for the Blind, because I've been in their shoes and I know what it's like. And so I really want to touch the hearts of those that are dealing with a visual impairment.
You know what? One of the things that I had to learn was, we use these terms. A lot of times people, visually impaired, blind, legally blind, all of these different things. And one of the biggest things that I know upsets my son, it used to upset him so much. I think it still does. But it would be when people would go, but you don't look like you're blind. Do you ever get that? And how hard is it when you're a person with a disability that others can't necessarily see?
Yeah, it is hard because especially doing tours, you might think that that's not something that someone that's legally blind would do. And a lot of times people point stuff out and you can't see it. So that opens up where you want to tell them, can you explain to me a little more greater detail? I can't see that. I'm visually impaired, but I'd be happy to explain. So absolutely, right along with Drew and your son, it happens continually. I've only had one case where somebody walked up to me and says, you have glaucoma. And I was kind of taken back by that. And they actually worked in the industry and had dealt with a lot of cases. But people don't know. And so that's where it comes back. The onus is on my shoulders to tell them, because if you don't tell them that they can't know, and you can't get upset or discouraged by that. And so just being forthright about it is very, very crucial so that I can continue to do what I love, ticketing and tours right here at Indiana University.
How did you get that opportunity? That's another thing too, that so obviously my son graduated in 2020, right in the midst of COVID. Ta-da! That's what you get, right? You finally make it through and then you get to sit at home. And so one of the challenges, obviously, with not just having the visual impairment, but he's also has other disabilities that are related to the medical side of making him a high risk in this environment. Finding a job has been difficult, to say the least. But even if this environment didn't exist, I think there would have been some struggles. How hard is it? Again, you touched on this, but I just wanted to reiterate again, how hard is it for persons with disabilities, particularly people who are visually impaired? I understand there's only about 30% that actually are in the workforce of folks who are blind and visually impaired. So it's a very, very difficult thing to do to get that job. What would you say to not just the employer, but also those who are seeking? What is necessary to make sure that there's equity and inclusion on that front?
Yeah. Well, first of all, greater the test, greater the testimony. Keep that in mind. That's really, really important. And it does go back to the relationships as well, just putting yourself out there, taking on opportunities. And I think taking opportunities that may not necessarily be the most comfortable opportunities, it's just getting experience, putting yourself out there, willing to, actually put your wings out, right, and fly, because there's always people that you can meet, and there's people that's out there looking for employers. And the next part of that is do your homework. Do those late nights where you look at your resume, you work on the skills that you can control. There's a lot of things we can't control, but there are a certain amount of things we can control, whether that's beefing up your resume, whether that's making a phone call but trying to network, whether that's looking at different volunteer opportunities. Take time to do your homework. I did with my job. This job did not exist. I basically come forward to the athletic department and said, here's a proposal. This is what I'd like to do. This is what I envision. I envision a marriage between tickets and tours. And I literally sold my proposal to them and said, this is something that can be worthwhile, not just for this summer, but for years to come. And being proactive. I tell my interns that the biggest thing you can do is be proactive. Don't wait on opportunities to come. Pick up that phone, write, talk, do what you can. That's what you can control.
I love it. I love it. Can you talk to my son? I'm gonna make sure that he watches this if for whatever reason he's not, because it's so important. It's easy to sit back and say, wow, like you said, woe is me, this happened. How am I ever, how's anybody ever going to treat me fairly? And sometimes you just have to advocate for yourself. That's a big, big part of it. So thank you so much for sharing that. Last but not least, what do you want when you step on stage to speak, or when you're in the pulpit in your ministry, or overall, what is the biggest message of perseverance that you would want to share with your audience?
No matter who you are, everybody has a past of pain, whether that's a disability, whether that's a split in the family, whether that's financially, whether that's racially. There's pain that's going to be there. But you can overcome that pain and have praise. And when I'm in any of these different settings, I want to be very conversational. I don't mean, oh, wow, here's this guy up on the stage, and he's got this incredible story, but I can't relate. I want to look for that relatability. And when I step down and done speaking, I want to meet you personally. I want to, after COVID and even now, maybe arm bump, shake a hand, and get to know you and really pray for you, encourage you, have that one-on-one time where ask me questions. Am I going to have the perfect answers? No, but I'm also willing to look for the answers for you as well. So I want people to be able to connect, because I know there's thousands of people out there that have a story. This is waiting to be shared. And I want them to see how they can do that for themselves.
Kurt, where can they find you? People that are out there that's going, I like that guy. Where can they find you?
Yeah, so there's two ways. I am actually right now, we're just a few days short of having the website up, but it is Kurt Pangborn speaks.com. So first, last name, speaks.com, or the easiest way, email me, Kurt@kurtpangbornspeaks.com. So send me a message. Would love to talk.
Kurt, you're doing an absolutely fabulous job of just helping people see the light in so many ways. And you have been such a light for so many people. I can think of all the people that kept saying, oh my gosh, he was so good. He was so good. He just really, really changed my life. Keep doing what you're doing, Kurt. I mean, you're such an inspiration. You've come a long way. I should be now coming to you asking you for a job, as opposed to when you were the manager and I was on the coaching staff. You're coaching others now, and I think that's brilliant. Thank you so much for being here this evening.
Thank you so much.
All right. You've been watching Perseverance Live. Remember, right in the middle of Perseverance, there's always the word Vera, and Vera means faith. I wish you all of that. We'll see you the next time. For those of you that are watching on Facebook Live or YouTube Live, if you have some comments, feel free to throw them in. If you have some questions for Kurt, he's going to stick around for just a little bit. Other than that, that's it. I'm going to sign off. We'll take your questions right after this. All right, Kurt, I'm looking in, and it looks like Rebecca is saying she understands everything you're saying. People point to things and tell them, and she tells them that she's legally blind and she can't see it from there. So yeah, so we have some people that totally resonate with you. And Anita Skipper, thanks for being on. Anytime you think you have challenges, here comes an overcomer named Kurt. So good stuff, good stuff. Any questions coming from out there for all of you that are tuning in? We'll keep Kurt here for just a little bit more. And Kurt, when's your book due?
It'd be late this year, so we're probably looking at November, December range. Official date hasn't been set yet, but end of this year. So maybe a stocking stuffer. I don't know.
Just in time for that.
There
All right,
go.
I'm going to officially sign off. I don't see any questions coming through, but I do see quite a few people that did stick around for the show, so I really appreciate that. Catch us next time. We'll be back in a couple of weeks with another Perseverance Speakers right here, a Perseverance Speaker on Perseverance Live. I'm Vera Jones. That's Kurt Pangborn, and we're out. Good night. God bless.